Mama Nkechi was known throughout Ajigunal village as the woman who could cook anything. Her jollof rice made people weep with joy, her egusi soup was legendary, and her puff-puff melted on the tongue like morning dew. But since her husband's death 3 years ago, she had become a shadow of herself. Her small food stall at the edge of the market barely earned enough to feed her daughter Adiz and pay their rent. The other market women whispered about her misfortune. Such a talented cook, they said. Yet customers pass her by. It was true. Despite the delicious aromas that wafted from her stall, people seemed to look right through her, choosing instead to buy from vendors whose food couldn't match hers. Mama Nkechi would return home each evening with unsold food, her heart heavy with worry. How would she pay for Adiz's school fees? How would they survive the rainy season when business was even slower? She prayed to her ancestors each night, begging for help, for guidance, for mercy. Little did she know that her prayers were being heard by more than just the living. It was a moonless night when Mama Nkechi first heard the knock. 3 deliberate taps on her wooden door, so soft she almost thought she'd imagine them. She lay still on her mat, listening. Adiz slept soundly beside her, undisturbed. Then the knock came again. Tap, tap, tap. "Who disturbs honest people at this hour?" she called out, her voice trembling slightly. A voice answered, smooth as palm wine and cold as harmattan wind. "We are travelers who have journeyed far. We smell your cooking from the road and our bellies are empty. Will you feed us?" Mama Nkechi's grandmother had taught her that turning away a stranger at night could bring a curse. She wrapped her wrapper tightly around herself and opened the door a crack. In the darkness, she could barely make out 3 figures standing in her compound. They wore flowing white garments that seemed to shimmer in the starlight. "I have leftover soup and EBA," she said. "Come sit. I will warm it for you." The figures glided into her compound without a sound, and Mama Nkechi felt the temperature drop as they passed. Mama Nkechi lit her kerosene lamp and bustled about, reheating the food she'd brought home from the market. As the lamp flickered, she noticed something strange about her visitors. They cast no shadows on the wall. She blinked hard, thinking her tired eyes were playing tricks. The 3 figures sat perfectly still, their faces hidden beneath their white head coverings. When she placed the steaming bowls before them, they began to eat with an urgency she'd never witnessed. The food disappeared so quickly she could barely follow their movements. Within minutes, every morsel was gone. "That was the finest meal we've had in many years," said the tallest figure. "We will pay you well." One of them placed something wrapped in banana leaves on her table. Before she could respond or even get a proper look at their faces, they stood and walked toward the door. "Wait!" she called. "Who are you? Where do you come from?" But they had already vanished into the night, leaving only the faint scent of cemetery flowers. When Mama Nkechi unwrapped the banana leaves, she found old coins, perfectly round and made of pure silver, stamped with markings she didn't recognize. The next night they came again, and the night after that. Always after midnight, always 3 soft knocks, always wearing white. Sometimes there were 3 visitors, sometimes 5, once there were 7. Mama Nkechi began preparing extra food each evening, setting aside her best ingredients for these mysterious customers. They never spoke much, but they always paid, sometimes with old coins, sometimes with strange cowrie shells, once with a handful of what looked like gold dust. Mama Nkechi hid these payments in a clay pot beneath her bed, not knowing what else to do with such unusual currency. Word began to spread through the market that Mama Nkechi's fortunes were changing. She wore a new wrapper to market, bought Adiz's new school shoes, and even had money to contribute to the village women's savings group. "God has finally answered her prayers," the women said, though some eyed her with suspicion. Her nightly visitors became routine. She learned not to look too closely at their faces, not to question where they came from. They ate, they paid, and they left. It seemed like a fair arrangement. But Mama Nkechi noticed she was growing thin despite cooking so much food, and dark circles appeared beneath her eyes. One morning, Mama Nkechi decided to use one of the silver coins her night visitors had given her. She went to Alhaji Musa's shop to buy rice and tomatoes. When she placed the coin on the counter, Alhaji Musa's face went pale. "Where did you get this?" he whispered, pushing it back toward her. "It was payment from a customer." "Why? Is something wrong?" Alhaji Musa looked around nervously before leaning close. "Mama Nkechi, this coin is from the old days, before even my grandfather was born. See these markings? This is burial money. Coins they used to place on the eyes of the dead to pay for their journey to the ancestor realm." Mama Nkechi's hands began to shake. She tried at 3 more shops that day, and each time, the shopkeepers reacted with fear or refused the coins outright. One old woman even made the sign against evil and hurried away. That evening, as Mama Nkechi prepared the night's meal, her hands trembled as she stirred the pot. What had she gotten herself into? Who, or what, was she really cooking for? But she was afraid to stop. What if they became angry? What if they took back everything they'd given her? Chief Okonkwo, the eldest man in Ajigunal village, sent for Mama Nkechi. She found him sitting under the ancient Udala tree where the elders gathered, his wrapper draped across his thin shoulders, his walking stick planted firmly in the red earth. "Sit, my daughter," he said, his voice grave. "The market women talk. They say you have visitors at strange hours. They say you suddenly have money, but you cannot spend your coins anywhere." Mama Nkechi's heart pounded. "Chief, I am only feeding travelers who knock at my door. Is that not what our ancestors taught us? Travelers who come at midnight? Travelers who pay with coins from the grave." Chief Okonkwo's eyes were sharp despite his age. "My daughter, there is feeding strangers and there is feeding spirits. Do you know the difference?" He told her of others who had made deals with the spirit world without understanding the cost. A farmer whose crops grew tall but turned to ash at harvest. A trader whose shop filled with customers who left no footprints. "The spirit world always demands balance," he warned. "What they give, they will take back threefold if you're not careful." Mama Nkechi left the meeting with her heart heavy, but still, she did not stop cooking. That night, Mama Nkechi pretended to sleep but watched through half-closed eyes as her visitors ate. When they left, something compelled her to follow. She wrapped her darkest cloth around herself and slipped out behind them, keeping to the shadows. The figures in white glided through the village like mist, their feet barely touching the ground. They moved past the last compound, beyond the cassava farms, toward the old Irako tree that stood at the boundary between the village and the forest. Everyone knew that Irako tree. Children were warned never to play near it, and no one cut firewood from its vicinity. As the figures approached the massive tree, its trunk seemed to split open like a doorway. Beyond it, Mama Nkechi glimpsed something impossible. A bustling market filled with people in old-fashioned clothes, illuminated by a strange blue light. She heard the sounds of bargaining, laughter, and singing, but all of it felt distant and hollow, like an echo of an echo. The figures disappeared into the spirit market, and the tree trunk sealed shut behind them. Mama Nkechi stood frozen, her heart hammering against her ribs. She had been cooking for ghosts. The dead themselves were her customers. 16-year-old Adiz was no fool. She had noticed her mother's strange behavior. The cooking at odd hours, the exhaustion, the mysterious money that couldn't be spent. She noticed how her mother jumped at shadows and how sometimes, in the middle of the day, Mama Nkechi would stare at nothing, her eyes glazed and distant. "Mama, are you sick?" Adiz asked one afternoon. "Should I call the medicine woman?" "I am fine, my daughter, just tired from work." But Adiz wasn't satisfied. She began to stay awake at night, pretending to sleep while watching her mother. She saw the visitors in white, though she only caught glimpses before her mother hurried her to the back room. She heard the whispered conversations and the clink of strange coins. One evening, while cleaning, Adiz found the clay pot under her mother's bed. She opened it and gasped. Inside were dozens of old coins, ancient cowrie shells, and other objects she didn't recognize. All items that seemed to pulse with a cold energy. She quickly covered the pot and pushed it back, her hands shaking. That night, she confronted her mother. "Mama, what have you done? Who are these people you feed in the darkness?" Despite her mother's protests and warnings, Adiz was determined to discover the truth. When Mama Nkechi went to follow her ghostly customers that night, Adiz crept behind her, staying far enough back to remain unseen. She watched as her mother followed the white figures through the village. Her breath caught when she saw them heading toward the forbidden Irako tree. Every child in Ajigunal knew the stories. The tree was a gateway between worlds, and those who ventured too close might never return. Adiz wanted to call out, to pull her mother back, but fear froze her tongue. She watched in horror as the tree trunk opened, revealing the spirit market beyond. The blue light spilled out, and in it, Adiz saw the truth her mother had been hiding. The market was filled with the dead. She could tell by their translucent forms, by the way they moved without quite touching the ground, by the sadness that hung over them like morning fog. Some wore clothes from many generations past. Some had the look of people who had died young, others bore the marks of terrible deaths. When the tree closed again, Adiz ran to her mother's side. "Mama, what have you been doing? Those are spirits. The dead." Mama Nkechi turned, tears streaming down her face, and embraced her daughter tightly. Under the full moon's silver light, Mama Nkechi finally told her daughter everything. They sat together outside their compound, and the words poured out like water from a broken calabash. "After your father died, I prayed every night for help. We were starving, Adiz. I was failing you. One night they came, spirits who said they had heard my prayers. They told me they were hungry, forgotten by the living. No one makes offerings for them anymore. Their families have either died or forgotten them. They wander between worlds, neither here nor there." She explained that the spirits had made her an offer. Cook for them, feed them, remember them, and in return, they would pay her from the treasures they had guarded in death. "I thought it was a blessing," Mama Nkechi whispered. "I thought the ancestors had sent them to help us." Adiz listened, her heart torn between fear and pity. "But Mama, the elders say dealings with spirits always have a price. What haven't you told me?" Mama Nkechi's silence was answer enough. She pulled back her sleeve to reveal her arm. It was becoming translucent, like morning mist. "I am becoming like them," she confessed. "Each meal I cook for them, I fade a little more. They are not taking my life on purpose. It is simply the cost of existing between two worlds." Adiz refused to accept her mother's fate. The next morning, she went to Chief Okonkwo's compound and prostrated before him in the traditional way, her forehead touching the ground. "Chief, my mother needs help. She has been cooking for spirits, and now she is fading away." Chief Okonkwo sighed deeply. He had feared this. He called together the council of elders, and they sat under the Udala tree, discussing what could be done. Old Mama Nkechi, who remembered the old ways, spoke up. "The girl's mother has incurred a debt to the spirit world. She has been feeding the forgotten dead, those who have no one to remember them, no one to pour libations for them. This is actually a sacred duty, but it must be done properly, with protection and ritual." Another elder added, "She made the mistake of accepting payment. When you accept payment from spirits, you create a bond. They have been slowly pulling her into their world to keep her as their permanent cook." Chief Okonkwo turned to Adiz. "There is only one way to break this bond. Your mother must fulfill her debt completely. She must cook one final feast for them, but this time with the proper rituals and protections. And she must do it willingly, asking for release." Chief Okonkwo decided to visit the spirit market himself. He was old enough, close enough to death, that he could walk between worlds without being trapped. He prepared himself with protective charms and set out at midnight with his walking stick and a gourd of palm wine. At the iroko tree he called out in the old language, words that Adiz and the other young people who had followed at a distance couldn't understand. The tree opened, and Chief Okonkwo entered without fear. Inside the spirit market, he walked among the dead, his eyes taking in the sad spectacle. These were not evil spirits but forgotten ones. People who had died with no one to remember them, no children to pour libations, no family to honor their memory. They existed in a lonely limbo, neither fully in the ancestor realm nor able to move on. He found the three spirits who first visited Mama Nkechi. They stood at a stall that sold nothing, their faces hollow with eternal hunger. "I am Chief Okonkwo of Ajigunal village," he announced. "You have bound one of our women unfairly. She fed you out of kindness, and you are taking her life in payment." The tallest spirit bowed its head. "We meant no harm, elder. We are so hungry, so forgotten." When she answered our call, we felt hope for the first time in generations. "We need someone to remember us." The spirit continued explaining to Chief Okonkwo, its voice carrying the weight of centuries of loneliness. "We did not choose to take her life force. When the living feed us without proper ritual, without protection, a connection forms. We cannot help but draw her closer to our world. We are starving for memory, for acknowledgement, for someone to know we once existed." Chief Okonkwo understood then. This was not malice but desperation. The forgotten dead were suffering, and Mama Nkechi had stumbled into an ancient obligation without knowing the rules. "There must be a way to satisfy both worlds," Chief Okonkwo said firmly. "The woman has a daughter who needs her. She cannot join you yet, her time is not finished." The spirits conferred among themselves, their whispers like wind through dry leaves. Finally they spoke. "If she cooks one final feast, a feast to honor all the forgotten dead, not just us, and if the living promise to remember us with annual offerings, we will release her. But she must come willingly and complete the ritual properly. Only then can the bond be broken." Chief Okonkwo agreed to their terms. He returned to the living world with the weight of their requirement. It would be dangerous, perhaps deadly, but it was Mama Nkechi's only chance. Chief Okonkwo gathered Mama Nkechi and Adiz in his compound and explained what must be done. Mama Nkechi listened quietly, her translucent hands folded in her lap. She had known this moment would come. "I am ready," she said softly. "I should have known better than to accept their payment. My grandmother taught me the old ways, but I was desperate. I let fear and poverty cloud my judgment." She turned to Adiz, taking her daughter's hands. "My child, if I do not return from this—" "No, Mama," Adiz interrupted. "You will return. You must return." Mama Nkechi smiled sadly. "If I do not return, you must promise me something. You must keep the tradition. Once a year, on the night of the new moon, you must cook a meal and leave it at the iroko tree for the forgotten dead. Not just our ancestors, but all who have no one to remember them. This is how we break the cycle of their suffering." She confessed other things too. How she had ignored warnings in her dreams. How she had felt the pull of the spirit world growing stronger each day. How sometimes she forgot whether she was alive or dead. "I have been living between two worlds," she whispered. "It is time to choose which one I belong to." Chief Okonkwo nodded gravely. "Then we must consult the Dibia. Only he can prepare you properly." The Dibia lived at the edge of the village, in a compound marked by totems and sacred objects. His name was Okafor, and he was said to see things others could not. When Chief Okonkwo brought Mama Nkechi to him, he took one look at her fading form and immediately began preparations. He cast the divining cowries on his sacred mat, reading their patterns with practiced eyes. He consulted his oracle, burning herbs and interpreting the smoke. Finally, he looked up at Mama Nkechi with both severity and compassion. "Woman, you have walked a dangerous path. The spirits you've been feeding are not evil, but they are desperate, and desperate spirits are unpredictable. They have marked you as their own. He prepared a protective charm for her, a small leather pouch filled with powerful herbs, ashes from 7 sacred fires, and earth from 7 ancestral graves. Wear this around your neck during the final feast. It will protect your spirit from being pulled completely into their realm. Then he gave her specific instructions. You must cook with your own hands, using ingredients blessed by the living. You must sing the songs of remembrance while you cook. You must call out the names of the forgotten, even though you don't know them. Most importantly, you must not eat the food yourself, not even 1 grain of rice. If you do, you will become like them forever. The Dibia prescribed 7 days of ritual cleansing and preparation. Mama Nkechi was not allowed to cook during this time, a torture for a woman who lived for her craft. Instead, she bathed each morning in water infused with sacred leaves, drank bitter herbs that made her stomach twist, and recited prayers taught to her by the Dibia. Adiz stayed by her side throughout, watching her mother grow stronger each day as the protective rituals took effect. The translucence in Mama Nkechi's skin began to fade slightly, though it didn't disappear completely. The bond with the spirit world was still strong. The village women came to help, despite their fears. They brought ingredients for the final feast: the finest rice, the freshest fish, the ripest tomatoes, and the best palm oil. Each ingredient was blessed by the Dibia before being accepted. Even those who had whispered about Mama Nkechi came forward, recognizing that this was bigger than one woman's mistake. This was about honoring the covenant between the living and the dead. On the 7th day, the Dibia painted sacred symbols on Mama Nkechi's face and arms using white clay and camwood. Each symbol represented protection, boundary, and safe passage. These will help you return to us, he said. But remember, you must come back before dawn breaks, or you will be trapped there forever. On the night of the final feast, the entire village gathered. This had become their ritual too, their way of confronting the forgotten dead and honoring the old covenant. Mama Nkechi cooked as she had never cooked before. She prepared a feast fit for royalty. Mountains of jollof rice cooked to perfection, pots of egusi soup thick with melon seeds and stockfish, platters of fried plantain, bowls of pepper soup that could wake the dead, literally. She prepared chin-chin and puff-puff, moi-moi wrapped in leaves, and akara golden as sunrise. As she cooked, she sang the old songs. The village women joined her, their voices rising into the night sky. We remember those forgotten. We honor those unnamed. We feed those who hunger. We call those who remain. When everything was ready, Mama Nkechi loaded the food onto wooden trays. Chief Okonkwo, the Dibia, Adiz, and several brave elders accompanied her to the Irako tree. The moon was hidden behind clouds, making the night especially dark. At the tree, Mama Nkechi laid out the feast. The Irako tree's trunk began to glow with an otherworldly light. She took a deep breath, touched the protective charm around her neck, and stepped forward into the opening. Inside the spirit market, thousands of forgotten souls gathered. They came from all eras, warriors in ancient armor, women in traditional wrappers from centuries past, children who never grew old, elders who died alone. The sight would have driven a normal person mad, but Mama Nkechi stood firm, protected by her charms and her purpose. I have brought you a feast, she announced, her voice carrying across the silent crowd. Not as payment, not as obligation, but as remembrance. You are not forgotten. The living acknowledge your existence. We honor your memory. The spirits approached slowly, cautiously. They had been tricked before, hurt before, ignored before. But as they began to eat, Mama Nkechi called out, We remember you, the unnamed ones. We remember you, the forgotten ones. We remember you, the lost ones. May you find peace. May you find rest. May you find your way home. Something shifted in the spirit market. The blue light began to warm, turning golden. Some of the spirits started to fade, not into nothingness, but into peace. They were finally being released to the true ancestor realm. Their limbo ended. But the night was passing quickly. The Dibia, watching from outside, saw the first hints of dawn on the horizon. "She must return now," he said urgently. "If sunrise catches her inside, she'll never come back." The spirits who had first visited Mama Nkechi approached her one final time. Their forms were clearer now, more peaceful. The tallest one spoke. "You have freed us. You have given us what we needed: acknowledgement, memory, respect. We release you from your bond." They reached out and touched her forehead, and Mama Nkechi felt the connection between them snap like a cut rope. The translucence left her skin immediately. She was fully solid again, fully alive, fully in her own world. "Go now," they urged. "Dawn comes quickly in both worlds." But before she could leave, an ancient voice called out, older and deeper than the others. An elder spirit approached, wearing garments from an age long forgotten. "Woman of courage," it said, "you have done what the living have failed to do for generations. We grant you a gift." The spirit touched her cooking pot, still sitting among the feast. "Whatever you cook with this pot will never fail to feed those who are hungry, living or dead. Use it well, use it wisely, and remember your promise." Mama Nkechi grabbed the pot and ran for the tree opening. Behind her, the spirit market was transforming, the souls finally moving on to their rightful rest. She burst through the Irako tree just as the first rays of sunlight touched the horizon. Mama Nkechi collapsed into Adi's arms, fully alive and fully returned. The village erupted in celebration. She had survived the spirit world and brought back the blessed cooking pot. But more importantly, she had restored an ancient tradition that had been forgotten. From that night forward, every new moon, the village gathered at the Irako tree. They cooked a communal meal and left offerings for the forgotten dead. Mama Nkechi led the ceremony, teaching the younger generation the songs and prayers. The ritual became known throughout the region, and other villages adopted it, acknowledging their own forgotten ancestors. Mama Nkechi's cooking stall at the market flourished, not because of any supernatural power, but because people remembered her courage and respected her connection to the spirit world. Customers came from distant villages just to eat food cooked by the woman who cooked for ghosts and lived. The blessed pot proved its worth. No matter how little food Mama Nkechi put in it, there was always enough to feed whoever was hungry. She never turned anyone away, living or dead, rich or poor. Adiz grew up understanding both worlds. When her mother eventually grew old and passed peacefully in her sleep, Adiz inherited the pot and the responsibility. The tradition continued, generation after generation, ensuring that no soul would ever be forgotten again. And sometimes, on quiet nights, if you listen carefully near the old Irako tree, you can still hear the grateful whispers of spirits finally at peace, and smell the delicious aroma of Mama Nkechi's cooking, feeding both worlds with love and remembrance. Hey, I'm curious. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. Also, what do you think about the story? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful African stories that will touch your heart.